Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Manxiety Podcast.
We're your hosts, Ashad and Matt. Before we get started, if you're enjoying this show, please subscribe so you can get notified of new episodes.
If you want to share this with your friends, you can find us on all podcasting platforms, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
What's that saying, Matt? Don't build walls, build bridges.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah.
Right. We're gonna be talking about building walls today.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Kind of kidding. We're gonna be talking about boundaries. Boundaries, people. Y'all gotta have some boundaries and respect each other's boundaries. Because when you don't, people get anxious. Or they just get mad. I saw Mad Matt today. Mad Matt.
It's a really
Mad
shitty spin-off of the Mad Max movies. It's called Mad Matt. I just drive around in a busted fucking Honda.
Pretty much. I saw Mad today. It's a tongue twister, guys. Mad. That makes sense. Mad today.
Yes, you're calling me Mad Matt, and I am mad. I get it, but real tongue twisters suck. Like the she sells seashells
by the seashore.
Seashore.
Why does that suck?
Because we went over this. I had a lisp as a fucking kid, you asshole.
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
Is that one really considered a tongue twister? I always thought that one was
easy. It is. Can you say it?
How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood?
I guess you can, but it's supposed to be wood, not could.
Where?
How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Because you want to say like wood multiple times, right?
I've probably been
how
saying
much
it
wood,
wrong my whole life, to be honest. I've probably just never gotten it right. Fifth grade me is going to start crying.
So you can't say she sells seashells by the seashore she sells seashells?
Whatever the fuck you just did there, whatever Eminem rap you just concocted, I cannot do that. I go, she shells by the seashore. That's how I say it when I say it fast.
That's pretty funny.
And
anyway,
cut.
We're not talking. Yeah, that was the episode, guys. Thank you for listening in to our episode on tongue twisters. But no, we are talking about boundaries, and Matt, I think we need to set some boundaries for this show. I think it's gone on too long. No more tongue twisters on the show, Matt. You're embarrassing yourself.
I agree.
Setting this boundary right now. From this point on, no more of those.
I'm drawing a metaphorical line in the sand on my fancy whiteboard desk. There's a line.
Ooh.
Do not cross that line, good sir.
You have a whiteboard desk?
Yeah, you know cool. This. None of our listeners know this.
Sure I did. I'm just kidding. I did actually know that.
Is this some weird example of a boundary? I was like,
no, it's not. Can you actually give us an example of a boundary, though, Matt?
Do you have
other than like the U.S.-Mexico border boundary?
Are you trying to bait me into what we were talking about earlier?
No, I just want you to give me a boundary.
Sure.
I mean, you can talk about what we talked about earlier because you just experienced that and it's still fresh on your mind.
All right. Well, there's an old wise tale that we tell amongst our friends that is...
Wise tale?
Yes. It's not a tongue twister. Fuck off.
No, I think the saying is an old wives' tale. Like a wife? Multiple wives? Not.
Are we just about to like destroy my entire... Is it wives' tale? Or no, it's a wise tale, no?
I'm pretty sure it's an old wives' tale. Like multiple wives. Maybe there's old wise tale too? I do see an old wives'
tale. Oh, it is old wives' tale. No,
it is old wives' tale.
No, old wives' tale. Oh, common errors in English. Fuck.
I just blew your mind, man.
Fuck. All right. Well, you know what? I never learned how to speak properly. Apparently.
Just plug out your microphone and just leave it off. Yeah.
Old. Whatever. There's a fucking story I'm about
wives'
to tell.
Tale.
There's a legend has it in our friend group that a shot is always late to everything, and
not to everything.
This is the boundary part of this. Where you're like, I'm always on time. I love being on time. I'm never late. And I was like, except for every time we record the podcast.
Right. So people have to understand is that I hate being late, right? To like events and like things people invite me to on time, and obviously work meetings because I get fired. But outside of that, my schedule is kind of loosey goosey, or I just don't keep track of time as well as I can, or I don't like estimate my time as well as I can outside of those things. But when it comes to things like that, I'm like half an hour early. And there's a great tale, actually. There's a great story
that comes tale?
with that. There's a great old wise tale. No, so this is an actual thing, right? So I get anxious if I'm running late. Okay, and it's something that I've been working on for the past couple of years, because I hate being late. And the reason I hate being late is because everyone in my family is always late. Okay, so my dad is always like an hour late to everything. My sister is always like, well, not anymore that much, but my sister used to be like an hour late to everything, at least half an hour, but close to an hour. And it's very common across Armenians to be fashionably late to everything. So, you know, they invite people somewhere at 7:00, expecting them to show up at 8:30. So it's a very common thing, right? Like when we have parties, we deliberately put an earlier time than we're planning on actually starting the party because of this, which kind of sucks, and I hate it. But you know, like I said, I've been working on it over the past couple of years. So now, or not working on that, but because of that, I always try to show up early. But now I've sort of been like working on myself a little bit to like loosen up a little bit and ease up. And, you know, it's okay to be late sometimes to things, depending on what it is. So the story goes, when I was in high school, certain someone who is now my wife invited me to her birthday party at, you know, whatever, 7 p.m. or something at her house. So me, being the, you know, on-time person that I am, showed up at 6:30, you know, expecting people to be there and, you know, expecting to get the party started, you know, right at 7 and, you know, socialize and stuff. So I walk in, there's literally no one there except her parents and I believe 2 of her best friends, and they are all still setting up. And this is way before me and her were, you know, very close or anything. This is when I was still hitting her chair in chemistry and doing stupid shit because I didn't know how to flirt. But yep, so I show up and she heard the story and she literally just rushed into the room. So I show up like half an hour before she's invited anyone. I'm kind of there, being kind of awkward, and I hang out for like 5 minutes. And then I get very embarrassed, and I say I'll come back later, and I leave, and I don't show my face again.
With a lame excuse that it was his uncle's birthday the same night. There was no coming back from that. I don't know how you came back.
I didn't.
No, like, I mean, I don't know how we're together after that. I mean, there
wow.
was no way
I mean,
of you reviving yourself from that.
A shot. It's so great that we're going to celebrate my sister's birthday, which is the same day as Andrea's birthday, and your uncle. Wow, they all have the same birthday. What are the odds of that?
I know.
That's
yeah.
just, wow.
Actually, funny enough, my grandma's birthday is on the same day as Andrea's birthday, so...
You should have used that.
I should have. Maybe that's what I meant, babe.
I think you would
so
need to
bad for
apologize
him.
to some people if you're confusing those two.
Anyway, that was the story.
Is he still late all the time? Can you confirm?
Oh, she can't hear you. I'm the only one with headphones on.
Of course. You're setting that boundary right. I was saying, is he still late all the time? He's only late to the podcast. That's what we were talking about, his boundaries today.
Now I'm the late one, and he just always... Now I have to tell him the cool kids are late all the time, and that no one wants to be the awkward kid at the party waiting for people to set up anymore.
Is this what's happening?
He still tries to be the awkward kid. I mean, I would think that he would learn.
Are you shaming him into being late? Is that why he showed up a little bit late today? And I heard you made him do the dishes, which kudos to you, but...
Yeah, thank you.
We have
I
lives
made
to
Korean
help over
barbecue
here.
meat after cleaning the whole day and doing laundry.
Hey, you guys realize that this isn't the call, right? We're on a podcast. All right, thank you, man.
Bye.
Goodbye. Please take the dog with you.
Aren't most of our podcasts basically just calls between us where we're bullshitting?
Yeah, apparently. Apparently now we're going to start doing 3-way calls and just having random people barge in on our podcast.
Little impromptu interview.
Yep. But anyway, yeah, so that was my funny story with being early. So then now I'm always like early, but I have been trying to ease up a little bit on it and go on time. And the other day we showed up to an event late because my wife wanted to. You know what I started doing? Like, I used to get anxious if I was running late.
Mm-hmm.
But what I started doing is, if it's not like my event, right? If it's like an event for like my Andrea's side of the family, then I'm just like, you decide when we're going. I don't care. So I put it on her. I just stop asking questions. I'm like, let me know when we're going, and we head out. So that's kind of helped. When it's our events, though, I still make an effort to make it on time.
Makes sense.
Except for this podcast, which again, I'll apologize to you on air, Matt. But
that's all I ever wanted was to hear it.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Will you please forgive me?
I wasn't that convinced. That sounded fake. It sounded like you've said that before.
I mean, I have. There's only so many ways to say it.
Bring Andrea back. We need to see if it's genuine.
But no. The thing is, I understand why. Right, like I don't like it when people are late, so that's why I try not to be late. Again, some things, that there is a scale as far as what I'm okay with being late to and what I'm not. Right, like if we're trying to play video games, whatever, dude. Like, we're screwing around. If I'm late, I'm sorry, but something came up that was more important than video games, unfortunately. For this podcast, again, I try my best to be on time, but just the time that we have it at, it's always like, sometimes dinner runs late, or sometimes something else runs late, or something's going on. So I try to work around it, but sometimes it doesn't work out.
We can move it later. We can move it earlier. We can change days. We can change months.
I know.
We can change years.
We sure can, Matt. We sure can.
Just change the time on our PC to be in the future, and then we're like talking to ourselves from the future. Yeah, I mean,
anyway,
it like being on time is like having that boundary with yourself, right? And for me, it's like if I don't like when other people do something, I purposely will not do that thing. So like I hate it when people cut in front of me and don't use their blinker. So if I cut you off, I'm going to use my blinker. I mean, I may still have to get over, and it sucks, and I am apologizing, and I'm waving my hand type of shit, but at least I'll put my blinker on because I hate it when people don't do it. Because the blinker is not for you to know where you're going. You know what you're doing. It's for other people to prepare that you're about to make a move, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like, I think it also shifted a little bit in me because like work with different clients and customers and everything is obviously very dependent on time. Because like if people are late, you just like cancel the meeting. I'm like, hey, you get to follow up at 5 minutes, 10 minutes in, I'll call you. Like if you're not here at that time, I got to go because I have another meeting, right? Everything starts stacking up, and it's kind of like a running joke sometimes to my coworkers that like people will be like, 2-3 minutes late to a meeting. It's like, yeah, the other meeting started late, and then like that was 30 minutes. So it's like that one little ripple starts to ripple across everything else. And then it starts to, kind of like fuck up everybody's day. So usually like I'm pretty cognizant of it. And when I'm in meetings, I'm like, okay, this is the time, we got to go. And some people, they're like, no, I don't have anything after. It's okay. We can spend an extra minute. Cool. That's fine. But, I want to be like generally aware of it. So maybe I'm also just like hyper aware of it as well. But it's something that go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just going to say it's something that was interesting because we were like talking about boundaries and shit. Just what do we talk about today, right? What do we want to focus on? And I was like, oh, let's talk about this because like you were late. And I was like, well, you were late. And then we had our little, back and forth shit that we'd do because that's how we interact with each other. And then at the end, we're just like, okay, cool. Like, you're like, hey, I'm sorry I was late. Cool, whatever, right? Let's move on with it, right?
Is that what we're calling it? Matt had a total meltdown. I saw his face turn red. He turned into the Hulk, the evil Hulk, right? The red one. I totally saw that come out. He's like, don't make me mad. Blah, blah, blah. You don't like me when I'm mad.
But isn't the Hulk always mad? I'm confused.
And I had to go and like calm him down. And
Is Red Hulk Sad Hulk? Like instead of angry, he just like cries.
No, it's the evil Hulk.
Is it Is it just Red Hulk? Is that what it is? Is that what he is?
I have no clue what his name is. I vaguely remember him. I think it's Red Hulk. Let me see.
I know there's She-Hulk
It's the-
because they're making the movie.
Yeah, it's what's his name? Hulk, Evil Hulk. Let me see. No, there's Action Evil Hulk.
His name is Evil Hulk.
Apparently,
All right. I mean, I understand this was, in the 70s when they were coming up with these names for a lot of people, but they could have been a little more creative.
oh, I guess his name is Abomination. There you go.
Oh,
My bad.
okay.
I guess he's not technically red. I don't know why I got that picture.
I
Anyway,
feel like
that
there is
doesn't
a
matter.
Red Hulk, though. I think I've seen that like comic.
Yeah, I
book
feel like I
image.
have too, right?
Maybe it's one of those like alternate universe comics where it's
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I forget what we were talking about, but yeah, I had to calm Matt down a little bit.
Well, we're just talking about like the boundary aspect, but the thing is like, I was late. Like, cool. I mean, I wasn't late. Sorry, he was late. But
Oh, you sure were, man.
but see, I thought I was gonna be late because I had to like my PC fucked up and it was basically not on fire, but it was basically on fire. So I had to use my old one and set it up. So I was like, fuck, I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna be late. I'm gonna be late. So I was like running through everything, getting set up, and I'm like 7:59 or whatever, right? Like, cool, we're here. And then it was just like, wait, where's the shot?
Crickets.
And then it was like, wait. And then and I texted you and you're like,
No,
I'm doing
no.
the dishes. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. And again, I apologize on air for making you wait because I don't like to wait either. I used to have a rule because I used to be a project manager. And this was something that I learned in college, which I think I've mentioned on this podcast. But, if you're, what was it? If you're early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. If you're late, you shouldn't even bother showing up. That was something one of my college professors told me.
And yet you
I
dared
was-
to come here today. Could have been a solo pod.
I know. No, obviously I don't follow that to the T, but it is very true. There is never an on time, right? Because planning to down to the second, pretty much impossible, right? You're either going to be early or you're going to be late. You're either going to get there if you're recording at 8, you're either going to get there at 7:59 or past 8, right? 8 minutes and a couple seconds. You're never going to be there at exactly 8:0000000000. So yeah, you just gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah, which is why I typically do the same thing where I show up early. Like all my work meetings, I'm there 2 to 5 minutes early, just sitting there by myself. And sometimes, if I'm dumb and I like show up 5 minutes early for like a customer call or something, right? Normally it's not that big of a gap, but let's just say I like hop in early, and I'm waiting on the call, and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. Then I go, where the fuck are these guys? Like, why are they late? Because I've already been there for 5 minutes.
Right.
And then I look at the time and I'm like, oh, it's okay. They haven't even started yet. Because usually you want to
Yeah.
give people a little bit of a grace period because potentially they're coming off of another meeting or they like had to run to the bathroom or make coffee or something, right? I think overall, like with any boundary, it just comes down to the expectation. And like if you both have the same expectation that you're gonna do something at the same time, then when that boundary is broken, you should like do. And I'm not the best at it either, right? But like you should speak up and like give your like side of things, because then the other person is made aware of it. Because if they're never
Right.
aware of it, they can never take action upon it. But I think that you should also come with a potential solution in mind. So like in this case, I would say, oh, okay, like, I mean, I know you have like the invite on your calendar. It's like, oh, do you have it set to the 10-minute notification, right? So then, you get a notification 10 minutes before it's going to begin. So if you're doing something, you go, oh, I have 10 minutes to wrap up, right? And then maybe that will like prevent some of it in the future, right? So it's kind of like, okay, cool. This is how you made me feel. This is how the situation was. This is my side of it. We got through it. It's all good, right? It wasn't a big of a deal. But then it's like, how do we fix it in the future, right? And if like
Right.
that's what the solution is, if it's something as easy as that, then it kind of makes sense, right? So for me, it's tough because, as I mentioned before, like I can't smell, right? So sometimes when I'm around people that are smoking weed or cigarettes or hookah or anything that's like smoke, I can't smell how strong it is. I have no idea. I can't tell if my clothes smell like it. So in that situation, a lot of times I will ask my friends like, oh, can you go outside, or can you not do it inside, or like whatever it is, right? Or like, hey, can you tell me if I smell like smoke? Because I've been to like parties with friends where people are smoking weed, and I'll like drive home, and then I'm like, fuck, I'm sober, right? But like, fuck, like, what if I smell like weed and I get pulled over? And they're like,
Right.
sir, what have you been doing? I was like, nothing, officer, test me, you know? So with things like that, and mine's obviously a very, very specific case because I can't smell. That's not normal. But, you know, you have to just kind of like set those boundaries if it's starting to trigger that like anxiety buildup, because you don't want it to go from anxiety into anger. Right? We want to like release that pressure valve before it gets to anger. Because then eventually what'll happen is like a shot will show up late. I'm like, you fucking asshole, you showed up late the past 15 times. I've had it all tracked in a spreadsheet. You know how many hours I've lost on you or whatever. And then he's like, bro, I was a minute late. What are you talking about? You know? And then it's not fair to set that either, because then it's like he's not even aware of what's going on, right? So
you know, it's funny. I totally can see you tracking every time I've shown up and how long it's taken me.
I love data, and I'm a petty fucking asshole. So I mean,
yes, yeah, but I know both of those things.
I mean, I haven't, but I mean, I do track stuff like work meetings, like who doesn't show up to meetings for like customers and stuff, just to be aware of like, okay, this person always, and I mean, it's also to help myself as well. If this person doesn't show up, I know I'm gonna have to give them a call on their cell phone to see if they're available. Fine, right? Or this person, I started asking them like preemptively, like, oh, do you just want me to let you know 24 hours before? Somebody asked for that, and I did. I said 24 hours before I gave them a notification. I was like, hey, by the way, just reminding you, we have a meeting tomorrow. Let's say like, I don't know, 11 a.m. or something, right? And they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I missed it. I was like, no, tomorrow at 11. You asked me to send you, and I was like, don't you guys just use notifications on your emails? Like, what? Why do I have to do it, right?
That's hilarious. Not everyone does, man. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like if you can let somebody know that that's a potential solution and they weren't aware of it, then it might solve the problem, right? All you have to do is just speak up in that regard. But I mean, what are some other like popular boundaries that you've either had to set or like that you think are pretty common to talk about?
Well, real quick, going back to what you were saying earlier about being early to meetings and then like, you know, accusing people of being late. That happens to me a lot. I have some coworkers who show up early, right? And like 2 minutes before the meeting, I'll start getting messages like, hey, are you showing up to the meeting? Are you going to make it to the meeting? Are you going to be able to come? I'm like, it's not even, it's not even time yet. Like I'm usually stuck in another meeting or doing something else. So then I won't even answer. Like I've gotten to the point where I'm just like, I just join whenever I'm going to join. Cause like, it's early, guys. Like why am I getting all these messages? I used to actually, we used to have this project manager at work who one time it was literally 5 minutes before the meeting, and I started getting I got a message on our Teams app. I got a text message. I think I might have got an email or something. I don't know, like just a whole bunch of stuff asking if I was gonna make it to the meeting. I'm like, I have 5 minutes to join. Like, leave me alone.
Yeah, that's weird because you still have to like check the time, right? Because then again, if like your expectation is I'm going to show up 5 minutes early, right? We're going to have a 1 p.m. meeting, be there at 12:55, and I expect everybody to be there at 12:55. Then it's not a 1 p.m. meeting; it's a 12:55 meeting, right? Yeah. It's a very different thing.
And I mean, it kind of sucks because I probably have put myself in that situation because I always try to show up about 5 to 10 minutes before a meeting starts. And I'll call in and I'll just put myself on mute and then I'll do whatever I need to do. That way I don't have to worry about the meeting. Like, because this used to happen to me where I would get caught up doing something and then like I would check and it's like, oh shit, I'm a minute or 2 minutes late to the meeting or something. So now I always just, I get the notification 15 minutes before. I usually, plan on calling in. I'll call in about 5 minutes before, put myself on mute, and then, continue doing my work until some other people show up.
Maybe just set your notification to like a minute or 2 minutes before, so you're like right on the cusp of it instead of being like the early bird that's like gonna chat with people potentially.
Yeah, but then sometimes I miss my notification. So that way, like 15 minutes is like I feel like good enough time. Like even if I miss it, like I'm gonna check it within the next 10 to 15 minutes.
Ah, I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's different though. It's different when it's for work and when it's for this podcast because I see the way you're looking at me.
I didn't say anything.
Because I know, but I know that because when it's for work, right? I have my work like I'm at my computer. It pops up. I literally see it flashing at me every 5 seconds. But when I'm at home, my phone isn't usually on me unless I'm actually on it. And during those times, I'm on time.
That makes sense.
But if like my phone is somewhere else and I'm taking care of something, like I might get a notification on my watch, but I don't like check it right away. And by the time I get to my phone, I'm like, oh shit, like, you know,
you do realize you have what, you know, on your wrist, your Apple Watch, that has greater computing power than the computer and the space station and the system that took us to the moon. Multiple times over.
Yes, I know.
And you're like, yeah, I just don't check it.
Well, no, I mean, you know, you can't always check it, man. If you're doing dishes, I don't want to like keep looking up, get it wet and shit.
You know, it's waterproof, right?
Matthew. Anyway,
starting
other
to
popular
get a little
boundaries.
thin on these excuses, but hey, that's a
Other
good point.
popular boundaries.
Hold on, no,
we're moving on.
No, it's a good point
moving
because here's the thing, right? Like I'm like joking around, right? But when you side, it's you showing your boundary, right? You're like, hey, let's just move on, right? You're like, let's not pick on this anymore. So then I need to respect that. I mean, we're magnifying it right now for the podcast, but it's like I need to respect that and just be like, okay, like it's time to move on, just let it go, type of thing, right?
Right.
You know? So yeah. So what are you saying?
Yeah, I mean, other popular boundaries. I think a lot of times when it comes to roommates, like I've had roommates in the past. I'm sure you have, like setting boundaries with your roommates as far as, can you come into my room? Like, you know, can you do this? Like, should you touch my dishes or my food? Or like, you know, things of that sort. Even at work, when I was still in the office, there was someone that would, like, take people's sandwiches or like take people's string cheese. And it was like, that's not cool, guys. Like, I feel like you should respect that, like, to begin with. But like, now that I know you're doing it, now I'm setting, like, I'm clarifying this boundary that don't take my sandwiches or my food. Like, if it's not yours, if you haven't brought it in, and it doesn't say, like, community sandwiches, free for everyone to take, like, leave it alone. So there's boundaries like that. I think another popular one is when you have kids, as they get older, sort of the boundaries that come with kids, right? Like, I think when they're young, obviously, you know, you should know what they're doing. Their door should be open, like, you know, making sure that they're careful and stuff. But as they get older and they start developing relationships and, you know, having their own life, you know, there's certain boundaries that, like, you don't cross, right? Like, I know when I was in my teenage years, I definitely didn't want, you know, anyone checking my phone, for example, right? Because then it's like, you know, I'm chatting with people, it's personal, right? That's like a boundary. And I think that is another really great boundary is people's cell phones. I think people are, you know, a lot of people have their whole lives on those things, and allowing someone access to it is kind of like allowing someone to read your diary. It's, in a sense, it's very personal.
Yeah, definitely. With the roommate type situation, because I've had a lot of roommates, you know, you do need to kind of like have those meetings to set stuff up front, and I always try to, because I'm the goddamn planner. I'm like, yo, let's have a roommate meeting and discuss everything. And people are like, we don't need to do it. We'll just figure it out. I'm like, that's not how this works. But, you know, like, there are things that are just weird that you would assume are like the case, like people eating your sandwiches at work, right? Or like a situation I ran into where I bought like, you know, like those cuties, the little like mandarin oranges. Yeah, okay. I like bought them and I had them out on the countertop, and I like came home and they were gone, and I was like, yo, what the fuck? And I like texted everybody in the house, right? And they're like, bro, they're on the countertop. Like, the countertop is fair game. And I was like, nobody has ever once said that was the case. And also, like, why would you eat the entire fucking thing of it? And, like, you know that they're not yours, right? So I think some people, like, will always be like, take, because they don't respect other people's boundaries. And then after that, it's like, okay, fine. If there's food on the countertop and it is not yours, please do not eat it, because I might just be leaving it out there because I'm not going to put it in the fucking fridge.
Right.
Or something of that nature, right? And like typically for me, the way I will phrase it to people is like, I don't care if you want to eat something that I have. Probably like 9 times out of 10, I'll say you can have it. I just need to know that it's gone. So if I think I'm coming home to, I don't know, the Subway sandwich I bought or some shit, whatever, right? And it's no longer there, I'm going to be pissed because nobody asked, hey, could I eat your sandwich? Right?
Yeah.
The same way at work, right? You're at work, you're like, oh, I'm going to go get my lunch, and somebody ate your string cheese or your sandwich or whatever. Like, you're going to get pretty pissed. So you would assume that's common knowledge, but, let's just say the first time it's okay. And then if it happens after that and you've told people the boundary, then that's when like you almost like need to get upset to express the boundary, because then you're letting people know that they can't cross it, right? So like it'll happen a lot with anxiety, where if somebody says, oh, I don't want to drive, right? Let's say they're anxious about driving, or I don't want to go to that party if they have social anxiety, or I don't want to drink that alcohol because I don't like the way it makes me feel, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
People will peer pressure you and keep trying to push you. And eventually what'll happen is you'll probably get angry and like yell at them. Right? Because they're not respecting that boundary. Like you've told them no, they're not listening. And typically for me, I think I've told people straight up, I was like, look, I've told you no twice. If I tell you no again, it's not going to go the way you think it is, because I am very stubborn. I already don't want to do what you're asking me to do. I'm not going to back down, and I'm going to make you look like a fucking idiot. When it comes to like forcing people to drink and shit, like in college, that was always my stance. Like, I've told you no twice. Like, you don't want to get to a third time. Like, very much that third strike rule with me. So
yeah, I mean, I very much have 3 strike rule as well, which I've talked about before.
Yeah, with like reaching out to people and them not following up and stuff, right? So like, if you're setting that boundary and kind of that, but then like if you set the expectation of, it's both ways. Like you have to set the expectation and then enforce the boundary. So there's really 2 parts in that, because if you have always let your friends like not respond to you or something in that situation, and then you keep texting them, they think that's the expectation. But
right.
If you say, look, if I send you something, you don't respond, and this is kind of the annoying thing sometimes with working with like a lot of customers across different industries and stuff, is if I send you a meeting invitation and you accept it, I expect you to be there, right? But like if I keep reaching out to you for something and you're just not responding, whatever, maybe you're busy, right? But then if you reach out to me when you need me, and it's like I reach out to you the past like 6 months and you have ghosted me, and now all of a sudden you want my help, you're not going to get a favorable outcome, right? It's like if somebody sends me an email, I'll respond. And if I fuck up and don't respond, I'll just say, hey, I'm sorry, I missed this, and respond later. So.
No, definitely. I think those are all really good points. I think some other boundaries that we can talk about. There's obviously, we already rated our podcast, of course, but there are, relationship boundaries when it comes to whether, the way you guys communicate in a relationship, or, what different topics that, people can approach within a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a significant other or something else. Maybe there's certain topics that are off. Maybe there's some experiences that people have gone through that they're not comfortable talking about. So you have to respect those boundaries. There are obviously sexual boundaries that some people, do not want to cross, and there's things that they don't want to do. So remember, always get consent, always talk about it first, make sure that you know each other's boundaries. Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's boundaries in so many different places, and I think people need to realize that, 1, you need to respect other people's boundaries, and 2, you need to define those boundaries in most cases. Because if you don't define your boundaries and then you get mad that someone crossed it, how are they supposed to know? Matt brought up a great example in the beginning. If he hasn't, if he didn't tell me today that, hey, you're late again, and, started being Naggy Matty, which is my new nickname for him, If he didn't start doing that, I obviously, I know that it bothers him because it bothers me when I'm late, but like I wouldn't know to what extent, and I wouldn't know like what that boundary is. So I might have done it again, but now I'll be more conscious of not doing that. Like you said, take some action. I moved up my notification to 30 minutes before now. So
I actually, when I
again,
said add notifications to your phone, I saw you grab your phone, and I was like, there it is.
I already had notifications. I just moved it up.
Gotcha.
But yeah, again, define your boundaries, respect other people's boundaries, and that's how you avoid one, mental angst for yourself, right? Feeling anxious yourself, but that's also how you keep other people from feeling anxious or from feeling any kind of stress or anything else, because now you're respecting their boundaries and you're not, you're not pressuring them. You're not putting any extra strain on them that you don't need to.
Yeah, great point. Right. First, you have to define it, what it is, and kind of like what happens if somebody crosses it. Right. If it is a absolute, if it's kind of like if somebody's a minute or two late, it's okay. Right. But especially on things like dates, because you're talking a little bit about some of the relationship side, where if you're going on a first date with somebody and they're 15 minutes late, what do you do? If they're 25, 30 minutes late, what do you do? Obviously if they're 30 seconds late, you're not like, I'm bailing on this date, and you fucking storm off, right? Because you haven't set that expectation with them. And also, like, that seems very much like you're going to get into a lot of problems, right? You have to have some flexibility. But I've been in situations like that where people have come late to dates, and sometimes I leave. Like, hey, if you're not going to respect my time, I'm dipping out, right? Like we go to a coffee shop, cool. I'm just going to get coffee and go home. Like, I don't give a fuck. And then there's times when somebody's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to be like, an extra 10 minutes late or whatever. They're already late. And I was like, cool. You can buy me coffee. You can make up for it, right? Then I get free coffee. That's great with me.
Damn, Matt.
Let's just say I've had.
I'm just gonna leave it at damn.
Too many cups of coffee. No, I'm just kidding. But it's like, if you're gonna set that, obviously when you tell somebody like, hey, meet me at this time, the expectation that you're both gonna be at that time, right? But in the example you gave earlier, like when you're dealing with maybe your dad or your sister or your community at large, whatever it may be, right? Your friends and family, and the expectations that everybody's gonna be an hour late. That's the thing. It's like, when I tell you 6, the expectation is 7 because I'm expecting you to be late. So if you show up at 7, you're not really hurting my feelings because I expected you to show up at 7, right? The issue comes into it when, like, I say be there at 6 sharp and then you show up at 7:30, or in the reverse case with Andrea, you show up like on time or early, and then now you're just the awkward kid off to the side who's like, what do I do? Hey, let me help you set up.
Who has to make excuses and leave. That's what you do.
Right. And then, like, you feel awkward, and then it's like it causes a lot of unnecessary awkwardness and anxiety, because the easiest thing to do is just communicate your needs. Sorry, it's not easy, but the easiest path forward is to communicate your needs. Like with roommates, I've been in situations where somebody's like getting mad at you, like, I can't believe you didn't do this and you didn't do this, and I was like, you never told me to do those things. Like, how was I supposed to know that you were going to do those things, right? And then that's when you can have an opportunity to speak, but obviously if somebody's like emotional and they're pissed off at you, it's going to be a lot harder to have that productive conversation.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I do like the approach that that Sheldon has in the Big Bang Theory when it comes to roommates. He has that. Have you seen the Big Bang Theory?
I've seen a bunch of episodes, but I don't know what specifically.
You should totally watch the whole thing because it's an amazing show. But he whoops out this humongous roommate agreement that covers everything. Like literally covers every single aspect of being a roommate, down to what time you can use the restroom, how far away you need to stand when you're flossing, just like all kinds of stuff. It's pretty hilarious, and he references it a lot. So, yeah, I think that's my new go-to. That way, he sets his boundaries, he sets his expectations, and you sign it. So it's a legally binding document.
There you go. You should always read what you sign. But
I agree.
It does make sense too. I know we touched on this a little bit before with relationships as well, where like if your expectation is to have kids and theirs isn't, and then you guys get down the road and that boundary becomes realized, then it can cause a lot of issues, right? If somebody's like, I absolutely do not want to have kids, and somebody says, I 100% do, then you have to compromise on your boundaries. And if your boundary is like immovable, then it becomes a big issue. Right. There's like grades
define
of boundaries.
I think that's the lesson here is define your boundaries.
Yeah, define it and enforce it. Let people know, enforce it, and then when people cross those boundaries, either say something or do something.
Yep, I agree. All right, well, I think we're coming up on a boundary to the end of this episode. So let's make sure we respect that and we don't cross it. Thank you all for listening this week. Matt put his hands up. He's miming an invisible boundary that he cannot cross. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy. And we'll talk to you guys on Thursday. Maybe. If I'm not jet lagged and can record an episode next week. But I'm sure you'll hear Matt's voice for sure. His sexy voice. Give us a little taste of it, Matt.
My sexy voice.
There he goes. All right, everyone. Have a good one.